Hey guys, welcome back to another video. In this video, we're going to be looking at how to create a box portfolio landing page separated into 3 sections: the header, the website content, and lastly the footer. The plugins we're going to be needing to create this landing page will be Elementor Page Builder, the pro version of Elementor, since we're going to be needing the Theme Builder function to create our website header and footer, and lastly Stratum Elementor widget for adding in Instagram feeds onto our footer. Now once you've got all 3 plugins installed, let's head on to our website backend to get started. Okay, so coming down to our WordPress dashboard, the first thing we want to do is to add in our home page. Now for us to do that, we simply need to hover over pages to select add new. So I'm just going to open this up in a new tab. Now once that comes up, we can simply come down here and we can change this page to whatever we want to. But for the sake of this video, we're going to title this home page. And once we're done with that, we can simply click on Edit with Elementor. Now this should take us to our Elementor design canvas, and in here we can start designing our home page. So coming down here, we're going to be making reference to this from time to time just to make sure we're still on course with what we're doing. So starting out, we are going to be creating our content section, and then we're going to move on to creating our header, and then lastly we're going to create our footer. So starting out with our content section, we want to click on this icon which says add new section. So I'm just going to click on that, and in here for our structure type, we want to click on these 3 columns. And the next thing we want to do is to change our content width to full width. So I'm just going to click on boxed and change this to full width. So just as we have here, we have a background color to the left and right column. And in here for our middle column, we have this set to white. So let's do that. So I'm just going to come back to our design canvas and want to click on this section, come down to style. And in here for our background type, we want to click on classic. And for our color, we want to click on this box and want to change this to hashtag E0E0CD. Okay, so once we've done that, we want to change our background color for our middle column to white. So I'm just going to click on this, come down to style, and in here for our background type, we want to click on classic. And for our color, we want to change this to white. So the next thing we want to do is to reduce the column weight to the left and right columns. So I'm just going to click on this. And for our column weight in percent, we want to make this 12%. And also for our left column, we want to click on that. And in here for our column weight, we want to make this 12% as well. So this is where we would have to put in all the content we want to put in into our middle column. All right, so I'm just going to click on publish. And the next thing we want to do is to add in an inner section into our middle column. So I'm just going to drag and drop an inner section into this column, and I want to delete one of the columns in here. And want to change our inner section column weight to full width. So coming down here, we can see we have a background video playing in here, and then we have our text and then a button. Now for our inner section, we want to come down to style, and in here for our background type, instead of selecting classic or gradient, we want to click on video. Alright, so I found this video on Vimeo, which we are going to be using for the sake of this video. So I'm just going to highlight all of this and copy this URL. I want to paste that video link into this field, and in a minute we should see our video playing right away. So we want to change the height of this section to something like what we have here. So we want to come back to our design canvas, and I'm just going to click on this inner column, come down to layout, and in here for our height we want to select default and want to change this to mean height. So for our mean height, we want to make this 500 just to add in more height to that. And this is pretty much how it's going to be looking like after you must have changed the height to 500 in pixels. Alright, so the next thing we want to do, just as we have here, we can see we have this video darkened. And the reason for that is so it doesn't cause as much distraction as we do have here. And as we can see, we have this video pretty distracting. Now for us to be able to reduce the intensity of this video, we simply need to come down to style. And in here for our background overlay, we want to select that. And for our background type, we want to click on classic. And in here for our color, we want to click on this box icon and want to make this black. Now the next thing we want to do is to increase the opacity just to make this more darkened than what it is right now. So I'm just going to make this 0.6, and we can see that is not as distracting as it was before. So coming back to our design page, we can see we have a text at the top of this background video. So I'm just going to copy this, come back to our design canvas, and want to come back to our widgets and want to drag and drop a heading into this column. In here, we can see we have everything aligned to the middle, and we want to do that in here. So we want to click on this inner section, come down to layout, and in here for our vertical line, we want to click on that and want to change this to middle. So in here, we can start out making customizations to our text. Just as we do have in here, we have a hyperspeed snapshot of human evolution. So I'm just going to come back here and I'm going to highlight all of this and paste the text which we just copied. But if we take a look at this, we can see we have a break between a hyperspeed and the snapshot of human evolution. So for us to be able to add in that break, we simply need to put in this and then put in a BR in between. And we can see we have a break between a hyperspeed and the snapshot of human evolution. All right, so we can simply center align this. And let's start out making customizations to our text. So coming down to style, for our text color, we want to make this white. Now coming down to our typography, we want to click on this pencil icon. And in here for our font family, we want to make this ASAP. So I'm just going to click on Roboto and entering ASAP in here. And we can simply click on that. And in here for our font size, we want to make this 55 pixels. And for our font weight, we want to make this 400. So once we've done that, we want to add in our button. So just as we have here, we have Discover as our button. So I'm just going to come back to our design canvas and want to drag in our button directly under our text. Okay, so we're going to change our text in here to Discover. And obviously you want to add in the link to your call to action button in here. So for the sake of this video, we're just going to stick with hashtag. And in here for our alignment, we want to center align this. And for our size, we can choose to make this medium. We can choose to make this large, extra large. But for the sake of this video, we're just going to leave that as small. And if we wanted to add in an icon in here, we can simply click on icon library. Select the icon we want to display on our button and we can simply click on insert to have that inserted onto our button. But in this video, we're not going to be doing that. So we want to move on to styling our button in here. We simply need to come down to style, and in here for our typography, we simply need to click on this pencil icon. And for our font family, we're going to be using the same font we used here. So we simply need to change this to ASAP. And for our font size, we want to make this 14 pixels. And for our font weight, we want to leave this to 500. So we want to come out of that. We're going to be leaving our text shadow to default. And in here for our text color, we want to make this white, obviously. And for our background type, we want to select classic. And in here for our color, we want to make this transparent. For our second line in here, we simply need to drag this to the beginning. And just as we have in here, we have a border on this our call to action button. So for our border type, we want to click on none and we want to change this to solid. And for our border width, we want to make this 2 all round. And we can choose to change the color of our border to whatever we want to. But for the sake of this video, we're just going to stick with white. And if we wanted to add in more border radius to this, we can simply increase this, and we can see the further we increase this, the more border we have onto our call to action button. I'm not really a huge fan of borders, so I'm just going to make this 0. And if we wanted to make further customization to our call to action button, we can simply unlink all values here and then add in paddings in pixels to our button. So for the sake of this video, we're just going to stick with 10 to the top, 20 to the right, 10 to the bottom, and 20 pixels to the left. So this is pretty much how it's going to be looking like after we've made customizations to our call to action button. Now coming down here, we can see we have spacing all around our inner section. So for us to be able to implement that, we simply need to come down to our design canvas. So we have 3 columns in this entire section. So we want to click on the middle column in here. So I'm just going to click on that and want to come down to advanced. And for our paddings, we want to unlink all values. And for the top, we want to make this 25 pixels. To our right, we want to make this 70 pixels. To our bottom, we want to make this 50 pixels. And to our left, we want to make this 70 pixels. So this is pretty much what we get after we're done making customizations to our very top section. So I'm just going to click on update to save our progress. So once we've updated that, we want to move on to adding our media gallery directly under this inner section. So if we head down to our design page, all we have here are just images from our media library. Say for example, you're an artist, you could add in your works to the media library and then put them up here for display. Since most viewers on this channel are going to be web designers, the one thing I can think of will be taking screen grabs of your previous work or gigs and putting them up here for display. So now that we understand what goes up here, let's move on to creating this part of our landing page. Okay, so coming down to our Elementor widget, we want to come down to our search widgets and search for galleries. So once we search for that, we should be presented with these 4 options. Now we have the basic gallery and we have gallery. Now this is currently present on the free version of Elementor and we have this on the pro version of Elementor. And then we have the default WordPress gallery, and also we have this gallery which is present on the Stratum Elementor widget plugin. So this is the option we want to go for. So I'm just going to drag this directly under our inner section, and then we can move on to adding our media categories. So in here for our type, we want to change this to multiple, and we can start adding our media gallery by clicking on this. But first, we want to title this as all. So once we've titled that, we want to click on this icon to add in our images. So all we need to do in here is to select as much image as we want to display on our portfolio website. So I'm just going to select this much. And once we've selected our images, we simply need to click on create a new gallery. And then we can choose to reorder this in whatever format we want to. So I'm just going to do that real quick. And we also have the option to add in captions in here, but we're not going to be doing that in this video. So the next thing we want to do is to click on insert gallery. In here, we can see we have duplicates of all. So what this means is we need to come down to our filter bar and then toggle this to no. So basically, if we toggle this to yes, we wouldn't have control over what appears on our first categories. Coming down to our settings, we can then move on to adding as much media categories as we want. So I'm just going to duplicate this, come down here, and then title this featured. And if we wanted to select completely different images in here, we can just click on this icon. And then let's say, for example, we wanted to delete this much, we can just click on this and then click on insert gallery. So once that comes up, we can see we have all, and then we have our featured image categories. So I'm just going to close this up and duplicate this. And in here, we can choose to title these designs. Now, once we've created our image categories, we want to come down to order by, and we have the option of shuffling these images on refresh. So we're just going to leave this to default. And for our lazy load, we want to leave this to yes. And in here for our layout, we want to click on grid, and we have the option to justify our images. And we should see how this appears as. What we want to go for is the Mensory option. And in here for our columns, we want to make this 3. So just as we have here, we have 1, 2, and 3 columns. So coming back to our design canvas, we want to make this 3. And in here for our spacing, we want to make this 20 pixels. And for our media, we're going to leave this to default. Now, if we take a look at this, we can see our images are not as clear as it should. And that's because the file size has been reduced. So in here, we have this set to medium, 300 in height and 300 in width. What we want to do is to change our image size to full. And we can see we have our image as clean as they should. Alright, so coming down to our filter bar, in here for our pointer, if we scroll up, we can see in here for our pointer, we have this set to underline. So what we want to do is to change this to frame. So just as we have here, we have this set to frame. So coming back to our design canvas, in here for our animation, we want to leave this to fade. And for our overlay, if we toggle this off, if we hover over this, we wouldn't see a background overlay. So I'm just going to toggle this to yes, and we're going to leave these options to none. So let's move on to styling our gallery widgets. So I'm just going to come down to style. And since we didn't really make customizations to any of our images, we're just going to close that up. And also for our overlay, we're just going to leave that to default. For our content, we're going to leave that to default. Now, the one thing we have concern with will be our filter bar. So I'm just going to open that up. And in here for our line, we want to align this to the middle. And in here, we have 3 options. We have the normal, we have the hover, and then we have the active. Now, coming down to our normal, we want to change our text color to hashtag 373737. So once we've done that, we want to copy this hex code, come down to hover, and change our text color to hashtag 373737. And we're going to do the same in here. So I'm just going to click on our text color and then paste that in here. Okay, so coming down to our active, we have our pointer set to green. So we want to change this color as well to what we have as our text color. So I'm just going to paste that in there. Now coming down to hover, whenever we hover over this, we can see we have our pointer color to green. What we want to do is to make this transparent. So I'm just going to come down to our pointer color, and in here for our secondary color, we want to drag this to the start to make that transparent. Now coming down to our normal option, in here for our typography, we want to click on this pencil icon, and for our font family, we want to make this color. So I'm just going to select that, and for our font size, we want to make this 12 pixels, and in here for our font weight, we want to make this 700. For our pointer width, we want to change this to 2, and the spacing between our media categories, we want to change this to 5 pixels. In here for our gap, that's the gap between our media category text and our images, we want to make this 30 pixels. So once we've done that, we want to move on to adding a space between these two widgets. So I'm just going to click on this, come down to advanced, and in here for our padding, we want to unlink all values, and for our top, we want to make this 30 pixels. And that's pretty much it for the gallery widget. So if you scroll down, we can see how this appears as, and we can see this looks really nice. I'm just going to click on update. And that takes us to creating our header. So just as we have here, we want to move on to creating our header. So I'm just going to come back to our design page and hit update. Now the next thing we want to do will be creating our website header. So for us to do that, we simply need to come down to our website backend. And in here, we simply need to come down to template and click on add new. So I'm just going to open this up in a new tab. Now once that comes up, we should be presented with this interface. So all we need to do is to click on select and then change this to header. And we can title our template whatever we want to. So this is completely optional, but for the sake of this video, we're just going to title this website header. Now once we've titled that, we simply need to click on create template. Now this should take us to a number of header blocks which we can choose, but we are not going to be doing that in this video. So we're going to be creating everything from scratch. So just as we do have here, we have our logo, we have our navigation menus, and then we have social icons. So coming back to our design canvas, I'm just going to close that and then click on add new section. And for our structure type, we want to click on the 3 columns. So just as we did for our landing page, we want to replicate the same in here. So for our content width, we want to change this to full width, and also changing the background color to what we have here. So I'm just going to come back here, and for our background type, we want to click on classic. And for the color, we want to click on this box icon and change this to hashtag E0E0CD. Okay, so once we've done that, we want to change the column width for the left and right columns. So I'm just going to click on this. I'm going to click on this and change this to 12%. And in here for our middle column, come down to style and want to change this to white. So I'm just going to click on this icon and then drag this all the way to the top. Okay, so once we've done that, we want to add in our inner section so we can start out adding our widgets. So I'm just going to come back to our elemental widget and drag this into this middle column. And I want to duplicate one of our columns, so we have 3 columns. So just as we do have here, I'm just going to drag this all the way. In here for our inner section, we want to click on this and then change the content width to full width. And then we can start out making customizations to our column width. So I'm just going to click on the first column and make this 10. And then for the second, we want to make this 72. And the last we can leave to default. Now in here is where we'll have to put in our website logo. So I'm just going to come back to our elemental widget and drag our site logo into this column. So once we've added that, we want to come down to our widget and add in our navigation menu into this column. So for you to be able to add in a navigation menu, you simply need to come down to your website backend and hover over appearance and then select menus. So I'm just going to open this up in a new tab. And then once this comes up, we can see we have our navigation menus in here. I'm just going to close this up and come back to our Elementor design canvas, and then we can move on to styling this. But just before we do that, let's add in our social icon like we do have here. So I'm just going to come back to our search widget and search for social. And then I just need to drag and drop this into this column. So moving on to styling our navigation menu, we simply need to click on this. And in here, we have the option to select our menus. So if we had more menu created on our backend, we can simply select that menu and that should appear right up. Since we have just one menu, I'm just going to click on navigations And in here for our layout, we have three options: horizontal, vertical, and drop down. What we want to go for is the horizontal. And in here for our alignment, we want to center align this. And if we hover over this, we can see we have pointers, but we don't want that. So I'm just going to change this to none. And the rest we can leave to default. Now we're not going to be making as much styling to this. We're just going to be going with the basics. So coming down to styling our navigation menu, I'm just going to come down to typography, click on this pencil icon. And in here for our font family, we want to change this to ASAP. So I'm just going to select that. And for our font size, we want to make this 12 pixels. And for our width, we want to leave this to 600. So in here for our text color, we want to click on this icon. And we can see we have this set to hashtag 7A7A7A. So we're going to be using this color hex code for our text color. Now coming down to hover, we want to change this to black. And also for our active text color, we want to change this to black. So that's pretty much it for our navigation menu. And if you wanted to make further customizations, you can simply do that in here with our different styling options. So coming down to our social icons, if we come back to our website, we can see we have Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Vimeo, Dribbble, and then Instagram. So let's add those real quick. So I'm just going to come down to add item. And in here for our icon, we want to click on this and then want to search for Vimeo. So I'm just going to click on this and then click on insert. And obviously you want to put in the links to your social account in here. So I'm just going to open this up and put in a hashtag for the sake of this video. But obviously you want to put in the links to your social accounts. So I'm just going to put in a hashtag, and the next will be Dribbble. So I'm just going to click on this, come down here and then search for Dribbble. I'm going to click on this icon and click on insert. Add in our social account in here, close that up. Add in a new item, click on this, and then add in Instagram. So once we selected that, we want to click on insert, and then want to add in our social account link in here. So I'm just going to close that up. And in here for our shape, we have the option to change this to square, and we also have the option to change this to circle. So whichever option you want to go with, you can just go with. So we're just going to leave this to rounded. And in here for our columns, we have the option to select this to 6 columns. So I'm just going to leave this to auto, since we're going to be making customizations to this to look exactly as we do have it here. So coming back to our Elementor design canvas, we want to come down to style. And for our color, we have this set to our official color. We want to change this to custom, so we can make customizations to that so it looks like this. So in here for our primary color, we want to click on this and want to make this transparent. Okay, so for our secondary color, we want to click on this and then make this black. And this is pretty much what it's going to be looking like after we've done with that. Now for our social icon size, we want to make this 14 pixels. And in here for our spacing, we want to reduce this to 0. Now we can see how this appears as after we're done with that. So we want to come down to our icon hover. And just as we did in here, we want to click on this, make this transparent. If we wanted to make this red, so whenever we hover over any of our icons, we can see that changes to red. So we're just going to make this a little dark. So whenever we hover over that, we can see we have a nice feel to that. So coming out of that, we have the option to select hover animations. So we have the option to select pulse amongst other hover animations. So if we hover over any of this, we can see we have that animation feel to that. So I'm just going to come back here and change this to grow. And that's pretty much it for our social icons. Now we can see in here, we have this aligned to the top, and also we have this aligned to the middle and this to the middle. Now for us to be able to align relatively all that is in this inner section, we simply need to click on this. And in here for our vertical align, we want to click on default and change this to middle. And then we can see how this appears as after we've selected vertical align to the middle. Now the next thing we want to do is to align this entire inner section to what we have here. So as we can see, we have spacing to the left and the right column in this inner section. Now for us to do that, we simply need to click on this column just as we did on our landing page. So we have 1, 2, and 3 column in this entire section. So we want to click on the middle column and then come down to advanced. And in here for our padding, we want to unlink all values. And for our right, we want to make this 55. And then for our left padding, we want to make this 55 pixels as well. Now the next thing we want to do is to add in a little demarcation directly underneath this entire section. So if we come down here, we can see we have a thin line in here. Let's do that real quick. So coming down to Elementor Design Canvas, we want to click on this and then come down to Style. And in here, we want to click on Border and want to change our border type from none to solid. And we can see how this appears as. What we want to do is just to add in a thin line at the bottom. So I'm just going to unlink all values here and then make these 2 pixels to the bottom. So the next thing we want to do is to change our border color to something a little bit light. So I'm just going to click on this icon and change this to hashtag #ED. So if we select something else, we can be able to see our border directly underneath this section. So I'm just going to click on publish. And in here we can see it says, where do you want to display your templates? So I'm just going to click on add condition and want to include this on our entire website. So I'm just going to click on save and close. I want to come down to preview and then select preview. And we can see how this appears as. So coming back to our website backend and then come down to settings, and in here I want to select readings. And for our homepage display, we want to click on static. And then we want to click on select and then change this to our homepage, which we've already created. So I'm just going to click on save changes. So if we come down to our website, we can be able to see our website header and then our section. Alright, so I'm just going to right click on this and click on inspect. So I'm actually viewing this from a larger screen. That is why I'm actually clicking on insert and inspect. So you can be able to see how this appears as on your own screen. So this is pretty much how it's going to be looking like after we've made customizations to our heading. Alright, so the next thing we want to do is to create our website footer. So just as we do have here, if we scroll down, we can be able to see our footer. So in here we have our Instagram. That is why we actually installed the Stratum Elementor widget. So let's move on to creating our website footer. Moving on to our website footer, essentially we have 4 widgets on here. The header, the text editor, the forms widget, and lastly the Instagram widget on the Stratum plugin. For us to be able to add in our Instagram feeds in here, we first need to generate an Instagram access token and then add it into the plugin settings. So for us to do that, let's head back to our website backend, hover over Stratum, and then select settings. So what we need to do is to add in the Instagram access token into this field. Since I've already generated one, I'm just going to insert the access token into this field and then click on connect Instagram account. Once that is connected, we want to click on save changes. Now once we've connected our Instagram account via the access token, let's move on to creating our website footer. To do that, we simply need to hover over template to select add new. And we should be presented with this interface. So we simply need to come down to our template type to select. And this time we want to select footer. So I'm just going to select that. And for our template name, we are going to title this website footer. And once we've named our template, we simply need to come down here to click on create template. And this should take us to a number of blocks, but since we're creating everything from scratch, I'm just going to close this up. So just as we've done for our header and landing page, we want to click on add new section. And for our structure type, we want to click on these 3 columns. Next, we want to come down to content width, select boxed and make this full width. Now moving on to adding a background color, we want to come down to style. And for our background type, we want to select classic. And in here for our color, we want to click on this box icon and make this hashtag E0E0CD. Once we've selected our background color, we want to move on to adjusting our columns for the left and right columns. So I'm just going to click on the right column, make this 12%. And for the left column, we want to select that and make this 12% as well, while changing the background color of the middle column just as we've done for the header and content section. So I'm just going to click on this, come down to style, and for our background type, we want to click on classic, and for the color, we want to make this white. Now coming down to our website, if we scroll down, we can see the content we have on here. So starting off with our heading, we can see we have stay updated, we have subscribe to your email address and get to know about fresh stuff, and then we have our forms. So I'm just going to copy this, come back to our design canvas. I want to come down to our Elementor widget. So I'm just going to drag the heading widget into this column and want to paste the text we just copied. So for our alignment, we want to make this center, and let's move on to styling our text. And in here for our text color, we want to click on this icon box and we want to change this to hashtag 373737. Okay, so once we've done that, we want to come down to our typography. So I'm just going to click on this pencil icon. And for our font family, we want to make this color. And for our font size, we want to make this 55. And for the font weight, we want to make this 700. Okay, so once we've done that, coming down to our website, we can see we have subscribed to your email address and get to know about fresh stuff. So I'm just going to copy this as well. Coming back to our design canvas, we want to head back to our widget, and this time we want to drag and drop the text editor underneath our heading. So once that appears, we can just highlight all of this and then paste the text we just copied. Okay, so once we've done that, let's move on to styling our text. So I'm just going to come down to style, and for alignment, we want to center align this. And for our text, we want to click on this box icon and we want to change this to hashtag 8F7766. Okay, so once we've done that, coming out of that, we want to select our typography. And for our font family, we want to change this to color as well. So I'm just going to select color, and for the font size, we want to make this 13 pixels. And for the font weight, we want to make sure to leave this at 400. And in here, we can see we have extra margins to the bottom. So for us to remove that, let's come down to advanced. And in here, we want to unlink all values. And for our bottom, we simply need to reduce this to -20. So once we've done that, we want to move on to adding our forms widget into our footer. So I'm just going to come back to our Elementor widget and want to come down to our search widget and search for forms. But just before we do that, we want to add in an inner section directly under this our text editor. So I want to drag and drop an inner section in here and want to make this full width. Next, we want to duplicate one of our columns in this inner section. So I'm just going to right click on this and select duplicate. And this time we want to make our left and right columns 30%. So I'm just going to select this and make this 30%, and also for our left column we want to select that and make this 30% as well. Now the middle column is where we get to add in our forms widget. So I'm just going to come back to Elementor widgets and search for form, and I'm just going to drag and drop this into the middle column. Alright, so once we've added that, this is pretty much how it's going to be looking like. So I want to come down to our form settings and want to make sure to delete the name and message fields. So I'm just going to select this and want to click on this cancel icon. So if we come down here, we can see we have our email address as our placeholder. So I'm just going to open this up, and in here for our placeholder, I want to change this to enter email address. Okay, so once we've done that, we want to make sure to leave this to required, and for our column width, we want to make this 70%. So just to leave in space for our button to come into this section. Alright, so once we've done that, we have the option of changing our input size to extra small, small, medium, large, and extra large. We're just going to leave this to small. Alright, so for our label, which is this particular text that is up here, we want to make sure to toggle that to hide. So just as we do have here, we don't have a label on this sign up form. So coming back to our design canvas, we want to come down to our buttons, and in here for our style, because we left our form field to small, we're just going to leave this to small. And in here for our column width, just because we selected 70% for our form fields, so we want to make sure to leave this at 30%. And for alignment, we want to leave this to justified. And in here for our next text, we want to leave this to next and this to previous. But for our submit, if we come back here, we can see we have a sign up. Coming back here, we want to change this to sign up. And if we wanted to add in icons, we can simply click on the icons library and we can search for envelope. So we can select this and click on insert. We are not going to be using icons in this video, but if you wanted to use that, that is how you can go about that. So I'm just going to select none. Now coming down to our actions after submit. So whenever I visit to actually submit this form, we want to carry out certain actions. So we have the collect submissions. That is, the submission will be submitted onto our website database. And we also have the option to collect emails. And also for our sign up, we have several integration options in here. So if we wanted to go with MailChimp, we can just select that. And we should see the MailChimp option in here. Coming down to our email, we simply need to configure everything in here. So this is the email address where our forms will be sent to. And in here is our subject line. Pretty much everything here is straightforward. So I'm just going to close this up. And coming down to our MailChimp settings, in here we have the option to select our API keys. So if we had MailChimp integrated onto our website already, we can simply click on this and then we should have our audiences in here. So there are a couple of videos out there that can take you through the process of setting up your MailChimp API settings. Now I'm just going to leave that to you. So let's move on to styling our form fields. So coming down to our style, in here for our columns gap, we want to leave this to 10. For our row gap, we want to leave this to 10. And pretty much everything here we want to leave to default. Now for our text color, we have this set to hashtag 7A, 7A, 7A. The same in here, 7A, 7A, 7A. And for the label spacing, 0. And for the HTML field, we want to leave this to 0. So moving on to our fields option, for our text color, we want to click on this icon and we want to leave this to hashtag 7A, 7A, 7A. Now moving on to our typography, I'm just going to click on this pencil icon. And for our font family, we want to change this to color. So I'm just going to select that. And for the font size, we want to make this 14 pixels. And for the font weight, we want to make this 500 pixels. Now in here for our background color, we want to click on this icon and want to change this to triple EC. Okay, so once we've done that, we want to come down to our border color and want to make sure to change this to transparent. So I'm just going to click on that box icon and want to drag this all the way to the beginning. That is pretty much how it's going to be looking like after we're done with that. And for the column width, if we did not change the background color in here, we can just put in a 0 to get rid of the border. And also for the border radius, we want to make this 0 as well. Now moving on to styling our buttons, we simply need to click on this button field. And for our typography, we want to click on this pencil icon. And for our font family, we want to make this color. So I'm just going to select that. And for our font size, we want to make this 14 pixels. And for the font weight, we want to make this 600. Okay, so coming out of that, for our border type, we want to make this solid. And for our border width, we want to make this 2 pixels around. So coming down to our background color, we want to click on this box icon and we want to make our background color white for this button. For our text color, we want to make this black. So I'm just going to make this black. And for our border color, we want to make this black as well. So for our previous buttons, we want to click on this and make this white. For our text color, make this black. And for the border color, we want to select that and make this black as well. And in here for our border radius, we want to make this 0. And for our text padding, we can add in 13 pixels around. Okay, so this is pretty much all there is to making customizations to our forms widget. Now if we hover over this, we can see how this appears as. Now I want to select our hover settings, and in here for our background color, I want to make this white as well. Text color, black. For our border color, I want to make this black. I want to also repeat the same in here, so I'm just going to make this white. Text color, black. Border color, black as well. Now if we hover over this, we can see we have everything set correctly. So coming down to our already designed page, if we take a look at this, we can see we have our Instagram feeds on here. So let's move on to adding our Instagram feeds into our footer. So I'm just going to come back to our Elementor widget and search for Instagram. Okay, so I'm just going to drag this directly under our fields widget. Now this is pretty much what it's going to look like after we've added our Instagram widget into our footer. Now coming down to our number of items, we can see we have 6 Instagram feeds on here. Coming down to our styling, we want to reduce the columns in here. As we can see, we have 3 columns. So we have 1, 2, 3. So in here, we want to make this 6. And we can see this looks pretty much like what we have here. And the rest we can just leave to default. For our spacing, we want to leave this to 5. And for the background color, if we wanted to add a background color to this, if we wanted to make this black, we can see how that appears as. That doesn't look good. So I'm just going to make this transparent. And the other settings we can just leave to default. But if we take a look at this, we can see there isn't much spacing between our Instagram feeds and the forms widget. Now for us to be able to add in a spacing between our forms widget and the Instagram feeds, we simply need to come down to advanced. And in here for our padding, we want to unlink all values. And for the top, we want to make this 30 pixels. So moving on to adding our last widget, we have design inspired by pixel walls. So I'm just going to highlight all of this and copy this. Now coming down to our Elementor design canvas, I'm just going to come back to our widget and want to drag and drop our text editor directly under our Instagram feeds. So I'm just going to highlight all of this and paste the text we just copied. So I'm just going to come back to style, and for our alignments, we want to align this to the center. And for our text color, we want to click on this box icon and we want to change this to hashtag 373737. Okay, so once we've done that, I want to come down to typography. So I'm just going to click on this pencil icon. And for our font family, we want to click on this and want to change this to color. So I'm just going to select that. And for our font size, we want to make this 16 pixels. And for the font weight, we want to make this 600. Okay. Now let's remove the extra margin directly under our text editor. So I'm just going to come down to advanced. I want to unlink all values here and want to reduce this to minus 15 pixels. So this is pretty much what we get after we're done making customization to our footer section. Now coming down here, we can see we have spacing to the top, and also we have a demarcation between our website footer and our homepage. So coming down here, I'm just going to click on this column, come down to advanced, and want to unlink all values here. And for the top, we want to make this 40 pixels. For the right, we want to make this 5. And to the left, we want to make this 5 as well. Now let's add in the thin line between our website footer and our content section. So I'm just going to come down to style and want to come down to border. And for the border type, we want to make this solid and want to unlink all values and make this 2 pixels to the top. And for our border color, we want to click on this box icon and change this to hashtag #ED. Okay, so once we've done that, we want to condition this to appear on our website. So I'm just going to click on publish, and we can see in here it says where do you want to display your template. So I'm just going to click on add condition and make this to appear on our entire website. So once we've done that, we simply need to click on save and close. Now if we come down to our website and refresh this and scroll all the way down, we can see we have our footer displaying on our homepage. So once we've gotten the header, homepage and footer all sorted out, we want to move on to the responsiveness on tablet and mobile. Now this is quite easy, although I'm just going to be giving a guide on how to go about that. So first, on our tablet responsiveness, we just need to make reductions to everything we've done from the onset. Take the left and right columns for example. We can make this 5% instead of 12. For the middle column, we can make this 90% instead of 72 we added for the desktop responsiveness. And lastly, for the left column, we can make this 5%. And the same logic can be applied for the middle column. Now come down to advanced, unlink all values for the padding, and make the top 20 pixels, the right 20 pixels, the bottom 50, and the left 50. Also, if we want to make reductions to the text here, we can just select that, come down to style, and for the typography, make this 30 pixels. And that's it guys. If you have further questions, do well to leave them in the comments down below. Also, if you wanted to get notified for new videos like this, then hit the subscribe button. Again, thank you so much for sticking around to the end, and I'll see you in the next video.